It's time to give the most casual and most frozen opinions on the world of professional wrestling and sports again. Open up that fridge and grab that very cold lasagna. It's a new week. Yes, it is. As the new day of the WWE would like to say it. It's a new day, it's a new week, and it's a brand new episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. The podcast housing a safe and open space for casual, cold, and even very weird discussion and the dumbest takes on WWE, All Elite Wrestling, the NFL, and the wide world of sports and wrestling in general. So, we got a packed show for you all once again, and it's obviously the most wonderful time of the year for the NFL, and it's still raging on as the playoffs roll on. We got the divisionals from this past weekend, so we're gonna recap all the games from the Elite 8 teams remaining, and obviously only 4 teams are left in the championship rounds, the NFC and AFC Championship games. So we got the final 4. So once we do the recap, we'll be going into the preview of the championship games on Championship Sunday this Sunday. But first, I encourage you all to subscribe to me on YouTube, Very Cold Lasagna. Click that subscribe button. It means the world to me. And what means more to me, though, is you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads, any of the updates happening regarding the channel. I recently put out the first bonus video here on the channel, and talking about my reaction to WrestleMania for the next 3 years, their locations. So go check that out. I had some good opinions on that regarding the matter. So go check it out, and I encourage you all to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to listen to it on whichever listening platform you prefer, I am available on Anchor, Spotify, and for all you Apple listeners out there, I am now. The Very Cold Lasagna podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts. So you got 3 options available for you all out there that want to listen to Very Cold Lasagna, and I encourage you all to listen to it. We are now 4 episodes deep, and we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to keep this Very Cold Lasagna train rolling. So let's get our juices flowing here. People. Share this with your friends. Share this with your family members. Share it with a stranger. Share it with anybody. This is the safe space for a casual fan like you and me. This was made for the casual, by the casual, and me. So, share this with however you can, and listen and watch it however you can. YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Very Cold Lasagna to get the latest and greatest on the podcast. So, support the podcast any way you can. And again, all your support means the world to me. So, with that out of the way, I do want to plug one more thing. Obviously, with the Championship Sunday coming up, that means next week's episode will not just be about the championship games, but obviously an early Super Bowl preview. However, I will not just be doing one episode next week. I'll be doing 2, because next week is also the Pro Bowl, but who really cares about the Pro Bowl? Not me. I really don't care about the Pro Bowl, especially because this year it's just a Pro Bowl celebration because of COVID, and that's unfortunate because I know some players in the NFL do care about the Pro Bowl and they want to play an extra game because they made the Pro Bowl. But I'm sorry, I still don't care about the Pro Bowl. So, that being said, for my wrestling fans out there that want me to do a full, dedicated podcast episode on wrestling, the Royal Rumble is next Sunday, the same day as the Pro Bowl at the end of the month. So, not only am I going to do a episode recapping the NFC and AFC Championship games, and of course, the early Super Bowl preview, I'm also going to be doing a separate episode for my wrestling fans out there, giving my what I like to call very blind Royal Rumble predictions for 2021, because I call them blind. Well, I'll spoil it for now, I guess, but I'll get into it when I when I make that episode, I call it very blind because I have not paid attention to Raw, SmackDown, and even NXT for the last several months. So I don't really know as of right now, but I'll have a definitive answer for you on who exactly I would like to win both the men's and the women's Royal Rumble match. But not only am I going to cover the men's and women's Royal Rumble match, and I will also be covering, at the time of that recording, the card for the rest of the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. So that should be fun to do, and for all my wrestling fans out there, I hope you'll enjoy that episode. So that's coming up very soon, next week. So 2 episodes next week. There's actually going to be a lot of 2 double uploads the next coming weeks. So stay tuned for all the exciting stuff. We got next week. We got not just the championship recaps and the Super Bowl preview, early Super Bowl preview, but we also got the Royal Rumble predictions, and then during Super Bowl week, we got the Royal Rumble recap, and then on I think it's the Thursday or the Friday before the Super Bowl, we got my final Super Bowl predictions, whoever the teams will be, and then obviously the week after we'll be back to normal with the Super Bowl recap. So that's a pretty good plan right there. We got a good structure of episodes right there, but it's gonna be a lot of work for me, and I'm even though it seems like a lot, I'm still having fun with this. I'm still having fun with this podcast, and even in its debut weeks. And I just hope that you guys are enjoying this too. I really hope that you guys are enjoying this too, enjoying my takes, however good or stupid they may be. And I would like to hear from you, especially not just on the listening platforms, but also on YouTube, because like obviously the comments are more known there on YouTube. Like I can see on the videos and stuff, but I would like to see whoever comes across my videos, the video versions of the podcast. I would like to see it in full strength, good, bad, smarky, or casual. I really like to see it, because again, this is a safe space for casual fans to give their opinions without conviction, without judgment from anyone else. And yeah, so that's the plan for the next couple of weeks on this podcast. We got a lot of work in store, and it should be exciting. It should be really exciting. So now we got all the self-promotion out of the way. let's now finally talk about the big stuff that happened around the NFL before we get into recapping the divisional round, the playoffs. And this was actually happened earlier today on Wednesday when I'm recording this. 17-year NFL quarterback Philip Rivers announced his retirement from the NFL, and I gotta say I don't know if I can say I'm surprised or not surprised, but in all honesty, it's just kind of weird when a quarterback that's been playing this long finally retires, you know? So Philip Rivers, if you don't know, has played for 17 years, 16 seasons. He spent the majority of his career with the San Diego, then now known as the LA Chargers. But again, I call them for the LA Clippers because, yeah, they love to choke. But not all because of Philip Rivers. And then he spent 2020 with the Indianapolis Colts. I talked about their season last week, especially in regards to the wild card round. And yeah, 2004, he entered the NFL draft, 4th overall. We all know what happened. Not everyone, actually. For those of you that didn't know what happened there, he was originally supposed to go to the New York Giants, but Eli Manning, I forgot what pick he was, but Eli Manning, didn't want to go to San Diego. He was originally picked by the Chargers. So the Giants and the Chargers swapped pick. They traded each other's quarterbacks. So Rivers went to San Diego. Eli went to the Giants. And while Eli, yes, he does have 2 rings, he's been an okay quarterback. He's been all right. I'd say his 2 Super Bowl rings against the Patriots were lucky. Like, those playoff runs were just like sudden. That's all I can say about it. Were just sudden, especially the 2011 run where they just managed to catch a lot of lucky breaks. But as for Rivers, his achievements, according to Bleacher Report, he's 8-time Pro Bowler. He's 5th in the list of career touchdowns, so he's in the top 10. 5th in career passing yards. 5th in career completions. 12th in career passer rating. He's never missed a game, so he's made 252 straight starts. So he's had that perfect attendance until his retirement. So you never know with Philip Rivers because he's been that perfect grade A student. Especially when he played through a torn ACL in the 2007 AFC title game against the undefeated New England Patriots. So Philip Rivers has had a career, man. He's been a really good passer, especially in his prime. I still remember watching classic videos of the 2006 the 2005 Chargers. And they were really good when Philip Rivers had LaDainian Tomlinson, and they were just Philip Rivers was just lining it up. Unfortunately, though, the 2005 and 2006 Chargers, they were just lighting it up. Unfortunately, the talent around him, Philip Rivers never got to the big one. That's the thing. That's the downside of Philip Rivers, and that's kind of like the casuals that listening and watching to this podcast. That's what a lot of casuals are gonna know Philip Rivers for, and that's the downside of it. Unfortunately, Philip Rivers never ever made it to a Super Bowl, and that's how some fans, especially the casuals, will define him. And some of it is on Rivers, especially in his post-prime years. I still greatly remember 2016 when the Chargers choked so many games and Philip Rivers threw so many interceptions. And that was just like, oh man, is he starting to become washed? Yeah, that's not good. But you also have to take into consideration that he's had a lot of bad coaches. His supporting cast kind of deteriorated following the 2007 season. Slowly but surely, yeah, the supporting cast was going down the drain. So Philip Rivers has had a hell of a year. Not a hell of a year, a hell of a career, statistically, but in performance-wise. But he's just never made the big one. But that shouldn't be what defines his career, though. It's the quarterback that never made it to the Super Bowl, but is still I still think he's Hall of Fame worthy. Just I don't know, if he's in the first S tier, if you like to call it that, S tier Hall of Fame bound, first ballot, as the professionals like to call it. like they also call it second ballot Hall of Fame, like like the second list of Hall of Famers that are the second considerations. So I think Phillip Rivers can make it as a second ballot, but accordingly, to something I watched earlier, he's eligible first eligible in 2026, but I don't know, might take him another couple of years for him to consider even second year, but we'll see. Phillip Rivers was a really good quarterback that just didn't have that. The Chargers just didn't give him even better talent and even better coaching, and that's why he never ever went to the Super Bowl or even back to the AFC title game. So that really sucks for Phillip Rivers. But yeah, as the later years proved, his body somewhat wore down, but he still was a little efficient. But yeah, the receptions we're getting there. We're reaching that point. But he gets to enjoy retirement now. He's had a great career, and now he gets to start his retirement by coaching high school football in his home state of Alabama. So from me to you, Mr. Rivers, I wish you a great retirement and hope you enjoy the rest of your fabulous life, because I know it'll be great. So now on to the head coaching hires that happened throughout the last week of the NFL, because there were certainly a couple of them. Former Ohio State head coach and three-time national champion of college football, Urban Meyer. A lot of you diehard football fans may be familiar with this name. He apparently one of the legendary names in the college football world. And he was hired as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Unfortunately for the Jaguars, though, their dumbasses decided to hire Trent Baalke, the Niners' former general manager, now the Jaguars' general manager. So have fun with that. But as with Urban Meyer, I don't know how he's gonna do, really, because this is his first NFL head coaching job. But apparently he's gonna get Trevor Lawrence. That's granted if Trent Baalke doesn't draft some dumbass defensive player that has a torn ACL history. But they're probably gonna get Trevor Lawrence, and they're probably gonna get pieces to support Lawrence. And I don't know what kind of coach he is. Is he an offensive, defensive? We'll see. But it should be interesting to see how the Jaguars build around support and how Urban Meyer coaches this team next season and the next 2 years. But man, how do the Jaguars fuck up by hiring Trent Baalke's dumbass, huh? Anyway, now Robert Saleh, for my Niners fans out there, he was our defensive coordinator for the last 4 seasons. He was recently hired as the New York Jets head coach. So he's gonna do some great things in New York. He built up that great defense in 2019, and even with all the injuries in 2020, he made the Niners a top 5 defense in the NFL, and hopefully he brings that same leadership, that same energy, that same passion into New York as a head coach, and I just wish him the best of luck with the Jets. So that good hire, but really good hire by the Jets there. And as for the Tennessee Titans, not the Tennessee Titans, the Atlanta Falcons, they hired the Titans for now former offensive coordinator Arthur Smith as head coach. All I know about Arthur Smith is that he obviously coached Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, and he's obviously helped them with their progression, with their significant progression. So I don't know what the plan is for him. What is he gonna coach Matt Ryan? I don't know. We'll see what happens there, but I guess congratulations. And then Brandon Staley, the Rams defensive coordinator, is moving next door, I guess. I guess you can say next door, because he was hired as the Chargers head coach. Now, I don't know too much about Brandon Staley, but all I could say is, hey, he made a really good move by just literally going across town, literally switching LA teams. So he knows what's up. He knows what's up. And then we just recently heard about this. This I think is earlier today or yesterday, that Dan Campbell accepted the position of the head coach of the Detroit Lions. He was the Saints assistant head coach. And there you go, Lions fans. Now for the remaining head coaching openings, we have the Philadelphia Eagles, and oof, after they fired Doug Peterson like a couple weeks ago, man, and not only that, they have to decide on what to do with Carson Wentz and whether or not he wants to ask for a trade, and with Jalen Hurts is kind of resurgence. Oh man, I don't know if I want to be the Eagles. I don't know if I want to coach the Eagles right now. But the big name floating around is New England Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. Right now, he's apparently the favorite to get the gig. But if I were the Eagles, I would be wary of McDaniels going heel on your ass. The heel turn, going rogue, as they like to say it in wrestling. Because, history lesson, he accepted the job when the Indianapolis Colts position had a head coaching position in 2018. But the day after, when McDaniels had a press conference for the Colts, he withdrew from the agreement and went back to New England like a pussy. So I don't know. Was it really a pussy move? I don't know. Maybe he's just waiting for Bill Belichick to retire, and then he can become the head coach. But all I could say is McDaniels flaked out. And then Frank Reich stepped in, and I think Frank Reich stepped in pretty good, But yeah, if I'm the Eagles, I would be wary of McDaniels probably flaking out on you of the position. But I mean, I can't blame him because of the environment the Eagles have created, especially with the Carson Wentz drama, all your salary cap position. It's not hell like Saints hell. And we'll get into that when we talk about the Saints off-season needs. But man, they are literally tied up to Carson Wentz, and oof, it's not good, man. They can't spend anything. So be on the lookout. If any coordinator is trying to try out for the Eagles head coaching job. Now, the Houston Texans position is also open. Who the hell are they even talking to at this point? Because I haven't heard any names on Bleacher Report or any site, ESPN. I don't even see who they're talking to. All I see is Deshaun Watson news on about the Texans. It's who's gonna be their head coach? It's so late in the game. It's I imagine they don't get one till I don't know, maybe late February because of this mess. So that's your NFL news. You got a lot of head coaching hires. You've got some head coach openings still. Philip Rivers retired. And there you go. That's your news roundup, as you like to call it. So now let's get into the divisional playoffs. A good slate of I don't know if you call it good because half of them were like blowouts. Like a lot of them were kind of predictable, but at the same time, these were big games that decided who was more motivated to play in the championship games this coming championship Sunday. So first up, on the NFC side, we had the LA Rams going up to Lambeau Field in the very cold Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Now, last week, my big storylines were all about the LA Rams. I asked the Rams, could they contain the Packers offense? Could Aaron Donald pressure Aaron Rodgers? Even at less than 100%, could Jalen Ramsey limit Davante Adams like he did to DK Metcalf of the Seahawks? And most importantly, even at less than 100%, can Jared Goff do just enough, like take care of the football, don't get sacked, and do just enough to lead the Rams to an upset? I said Packers by 10 because the offense was going to be too much for the Rams to handle, for the Rams to play catch up. And I was kind of right. I said the score was, the actual score was 32-18. And here's why. The Packers offensive line, man, they did an incredible job. They did an incredible job of protecting Aaron Rodgers. They completely shut down Aaron Donald. Even if it was a less than 50% Aaron Donald, like, he was like nowhere. He was getting shut down. And I know they were talking about, they're not limiting his snap count, but he was not even on the field like half of the time because, if you don't remember the wild card game against Seattle, he had that rib injury when he hit Russell Wilson, and I think Russell Wilson's knee hit Aaron Donald's ribs. So he was still affected by that hit, by that injury. And even when he was on the field, he couldn't get to Aaron Rodgers. He couldn't even pressure him to make a bad mistake. So that Packers offensive line did a really good job of allowing him to throw, allowing him to make his progressions, make his throws to Davante Adams. Not just allow Aaron Rodgers to throw all day, but they gave running room for the trio of A.J. Dillon, Jamal Williams, and correct me if I made that name up, and Aaron Jones, because they were getting running lanes all day on the Rams. So they were churning up yardage on the Rams like all day long and getting key first downs when the Packers needed the most. And most importantly for the Packers, by getting first downs and attacking the Rams defense, which was, by the way, ranked number 1 in the NFL, they certainly didn't play like the number 1 defense because the Packers were controlling the clock. They were controlling the time of possession by balancing the run with the pass. So that tells you enough that the number 1 offense was doing so much better than the number 1 defense that day. As for the Rams, all I can say is Jared Goff didn't do too bad. He took care of the football. He made some okay throws, but he also made some bad throws too. He also made some decent plays. When he needed to get outside the pocket on a couple plays, he actually ran the football. But unfortunately, there were times where he held onto the football too long, and it allowed him to get sacked. And it allowed him to also force him to throw the ball away. So, that being said, not only does Jared Goff need some competition, the offensive line needs a retool because they apparently can't protect their quarterback. And part of it is not I don't blame Andrew Whitworth here. It's the rest of the offensive line, but you need to help and you need to beef up the offensive line, and you need to get Andrew Whitworth some help because he's getting older, guys. He's getting older. He's been with the Rams for years, and he's not going to be there forever. He's going to retire at some point. And he's had like he's had injuries in the last few seasons. And one specific example of how Andrew Whitworth is getting older is that he let defenders pass him by, which allowed Jared Goff to get sacked multiple times. So the Rams need to beef off their offensive line. So that got them not crushed because they nearly made it a game, and near the end of the third quarter. But unfortunately, the Packers ran away with it near the halfway point of the fourth quarter, which is why it was 32-18. So Packers are moving on. They finally get to host an NFC Championship game with Aaron Rodgers at home, compared to the last 3 years where ever since they won the Super Bowl in 2011 with Aaron Rodgers, the Packers lost to Seattle, like melting down and choking that 16-point lead. Then they got blown out in the Falcons' last game at the Georgia Dome. And then they got blown out by the Niners, allowing Raheem Mostert to completely go ham bone on them for 4 touchdowns. So the Packers finally get a break here. Will they, though? That's all I could say. Will they? They're finally at home. They're, for the first time in a long time, they're hosting the NFC Championship game. Like, they hope they don't get blown out this time. They hope they don't get cursed. Now, as for the Rams, as they're gonna head into the offseason with a bunch of questions, not just for the bunch of questions, but how are they gonna address it when they don't have very little to no money to spend? But not only that, the 2021 NFL Draft, they don't have a first-round pick again. Yikes. Big yikes. And my personal off-season needs for the Rams is a quality backup to challenge Jared Goff, because I'm sorry, Rams fans, but I just don't think Jared Goff is the guy. I just don't think he's the guy. I think they need a backup. I don't know if they have a pick in the second round or even the third round, but if they have a pick in the second round in the draft, I'd say get it on a quarterback, because they need one. They really need a quarterback to motivate Jared Goff into playing better, because he hasn't been getting it done ever since the Super Bowl. Their 13-3 Super Bowl loss to the Patriots, and he needs to be challenged. Otherwise, that extension he signed after the Super Bowl, it's looking like total shit. It really is. Not only that, Aaron Donald could use some help on the defensive line, so I don't know how you're going to get that help, but you do need some help there. And you also need some help on the offensive line, because Andrew Whitworth, again, is not getting any younger, and you need some corners to support Jalen Ramsey and Darius Williams. But again, it all revolves around how are you going to do it when you have so little money and so little draft capital to use up. So, Rams fans, it's going to be an interesting offseason for you guys. Now, the nightcap for Saturday night in the divisionals were on the AFC side. The number 5 Baltimore Ravens took on the number 2 Buffalo Bills. Now, my big storylines for this game were centered around both teams, actually. I asked the Ravens, specifically on defense, if they could have a repeat performance from Sunday's wildcard game, and that was by shutting down Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and because without the Bills' running game, which was non-existent in the wildcard game, the Ravens could have attacked Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and I didn't know he was playing, but John Brown too, because he was apparently active. And not only that, could the Ravens pressure Josh Allen? And as for the Bills, would that run defense be able to limit Lamar Jackson and rookie running back J.K. Dobbins? And I was feeling upset friendly when I made that episode last week. I predicted Ravens by 3, and I mentioned that Josh Allen and the Bills would be fighting, and it'd be up to the Bills defense and their ability to stop Lamar Jackson in the air and on the ground if they wanted to have a chance. But in the end, it would have been the Ravens that would have made it past the Bills to go to the AFC Championship. But boy, was I wrong about that. Was I wrong? It was 17-3, but it did not feel like that for the first half, because all first half it was like all defense, and that was because the Bills did exactly what I said in my key storyline. The Bills defense shut down Lamar Jackson from running the ball, because he often likes to do that. They also shut down their running game. So they did exactly what they needed to do, like force Lamar Jackson to throw, and he did bad doing at that. And not only that, like the Ravens also limited Josh Allen in the first half, and they kept Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown contained as well. So it was a back and forth seesaw battle of kickers too, because there was heavy wind in Buffalo, and the often reliable Justin Tucker, the Ravens kicker, was missing kicks. Not just missing kicks, but doinking them. He doinked it twice before finally making one at the end of the half. But Tyler Bass, in contrast, actually made a kick on his first try. So it was tied up at 3, like going into the half. And following the half, the Ravens began to crumble. They just began to crumble because the Bills got the ball to start the second half. And right from the get-go, the Bills offense just felt more energized. They adjusted their game plan. They marched down the field. Josh Allen finally connects with Stephon Diggs on a touchdown, the first and only offensive touchdown of the game, and that finally lit a fire. That finally lit a spark for the Bills offense, because on the next possession, when the Bills defense just was, as I was about to say, the Bills defense are literally about to allow Lamar Jackson and the Ravens back into this game, and try to make this interesting. Lamar Jackson makes this stupid ass throw. He doesn't read the field. He throws it right into the arms of Teron Johnson, one of the corners for the Bills, into the end zone, and Teron Johnson went Naruto running from end to end, literally 100 yards, all from one end of the field to the other end of the field for a pick 6. And that pretty much turned the tide. That pretty much ended it for the Ravens. That was just an emotional bang. That's it. And not only that, if the Ravens didn't need even more heartbreak, Lamar Jackson on a botched snap, he got concussed at the end of the play on the next series, and they had to turn to Tyler Huntley because RG3 was inactive due to injury. So Tyler Huntley had to replace Jackson because Jackson was eventually ruled out of the game with a concussion. And he nearly tried to make the Bills sweat. I was honestly surprised that Huntley, who hasn't like been with I think he was on the Ravens practice squad. He was active for this game, and he nearly got the Ravens into a 1-score game. But when on 2 tries, on 2 possessions, he overthrew Marquise Brown, and then on their last possession, it fell incomplete in the end zone. So he literally got them to sweat. He got the Bills defense to sweat. So the Bills stood their ground on the Ravens, even to a backup quarterback, and they went 17-3. Now, Lamar Jackson, man, I don't know if you deserve an extension right now, man, because when the lights are shining brightest, you just shrink. You just shrink and shrink, because the Bills defense, they knew what you're going to do. When you want to run the ball, the Bills defense was already on your ass. And when you want to throw the ball, they knew you were limited there. So I just don't know. The Bills defense obviously had the playmakers. They had the awareness to adjust and prevent the offense from scoring. And Lamar Jackson just didn't adjust. He continued to tried to continue running the football by himself, and it still didn't work. He couldn't get away from the Bills defense. So that's a big reason. Well, not also a big reason why. One of the big reasons why the Ravens failed. And I don't know. I just don't know the Ravens can continue to compete like that in the playoffs. Now, as for the Bills, Josh Allen, he had a slow start, but again, that's because of the Ravens defense in the first half, but then they eventually unraveled. Again, for Josh Allen, he eventually heated up in the second half, especially in that first possession of the second half. But you're going up against the Chiefs next week, and if Patrick Mahomes plays, again, we'll get into that when we get there. If Patrick Mahomes plays, you're gonna have to start drives faster, because if you start let's say your first 2 drives with 3 and outs, yeah, it ain't gonna get it done. But the winner for the Bills was the defense, because that pick 6 changed the game. That finally got them heated up. That finally allowed them to control the tempo. So good job of the Bills defense in this game, and hopefully they carry that momentum into the title game against the Chiefs. Now, the Ravens are going into their offseason. I don't know what they really need to address here other than getting Lamar Jackson some help. Because as much as Lamar Jackson needs to address his own concerns, the Ravens need to address the concerns around him. Not like his receivers, his offensive line. Like, get him some damn help, because Marquise Brown is the only receiver, like, I guess you could consider his only receiver, and there's nobody else. There is nobody else. And his offensive line is not that great. So, the Ravens need to get him some help, otherwise he's going to continue to flop hard in the playoffs. So that was the Bills and Ravens. Bills win to advance to the AFC Championship against the winner of the Sunday divisional game, which was the Cleveland Browns going to Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, the defending, undisputed, reigning Kansas City Chiefs. Failed Paul Heyman quote. So my big storylines here were whether or not the Chiefs' last couple of games against the Broncos, Dolphins, Saints, Falcons were just big smoke screens. And what I meant by smoke screens, were they just like bad games for Patrick Mahomes? Because those teams nearly won. Those teams nearly beat the Chiefs. Had Patrick Mahomes not come clutch against those teams, they would have been 11-5. In all honesty, not even 11-5, 10-6. In all honesty, but maybe those games could have been motivation for Patrick Mahomes to play so much better in this game. As for the Browns, how were they going to build on the momentum from last week's big win against the Steelers in the wild card round? Because keep in mind, in the wild card game, they beat the Steelers big. They defeated the Steelers. I think it was 48-39. But don't let that score tell you what actually happened. They recovered a fumble in the end zone on the opening snap from the Steelers. They picked off Ben Roethlisberger 4 times. And they made a lot of good plays both on offense and defense. But clearly, they are not playing a washed-up Ben Roethlisberger. They're playing the reigning, defending Super Bowl MVP and the reigning Super Bowl champions here. So they're going up against a very different animal. And fortunately for them, they were getting their head coach back and a bunch of other players and coaching staff members back from the COVID list. So they were coming in motivated to pull off an upset against the Chiefs so they can go to Buffalo for the hopefully go to Buffalo for the AFC title game. And while I predicted that it would have been a tight contest, it would have been the Patrick Mahomes clutch show, and the Chiefs would win by 7. I was kind of right. It wasn't by 7, but it was a very tight contest from the get-go, 22-7. But there was a lot of things that happened to get to that point. The Browns were actually down big at the half, like 16-3. They're 19-3. So the Chiefs only scored like 3 points following in the second half. So the Chiefs were down 19-3. Oh no, not the Chiefs. The Browns were down 19-3 at halftime. So then there were a lot of reasons why. The Browns clearly couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense because they weren't able to cover Tyreek Hill, because obviously who can't cover Tyreek Hill? They couldn't cover Travis Kelce and a bunch of their other running backs and receivers that were there. And also on defense, they need some help. There was just like nobody there. And on offense, they kept going with Nick Chubb when Nick Chubb couldn't find any like open space to run, and the Chiefs were like reading it well. But we'll get into Kareem Hunt later. So they were playing scared for a lot of that first half, and they almost made it a one-score game. They almost did make it a one-score game, but unfortunately, I don't know if it was Peoples-Jones that fumbled it, but someone on the Browns like almost got a touchdown, but they reached for the pylon, but a Chiefs defender like made a helmet-to-helmet tackle, which should have been a penalty. That should have been a penalty, and gave the Browns a first down. I don't know why the refs didn't call that. Regardless, that Chiefs defender knocked the ball out of the Browns receiver's hands, and it was called for a touchback in the end zone. They were almost there, but no dice. So the Browns were down 3-19 at the half, and why was the score much closer? Well, something big happened midway through the third. Patrick Mahomes went down. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes went down. He was tackled on the turf. With the he got concussed. Like, it was kind of a disturbing sight to see, to be honest with you. He got hit. He got tackled by Mac Wilson when Mahomes was scrambling for a first down, but he was short of it. But when he was getting up, he was like dizzy. He was struggling to get up. He was like, fuck. He didn't know where to go. He was struggling to know where to go. And that was just like, God, that's scary. That is really scary. And while he did just as well as you expect him to do, like having a field day against the Browns defense, hitting his stride with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, that was just a scary moment for Chiefs fans because Patrick Mahomes would not return for the game. The backup Chad Henne had to cover for him for the rest of the game, and at that point, the Chiefs fans and the rest of the team were just holding their breath. They're just hoping that they can go to their third straight AFC Championship game, have the Bills come to this place where it gets loud, very loud, and they were just hoping for a miracle, hoping that the Browns go full skid mark again and not come back. But unfortunately, the Browns almost did come back. The Browns started to rally in the fourth quarter, thanks to Kareem Hunt, which the Browns should have been using all along, instead of Nick Chubb's no show dumbass. So they start using Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt starts dicing his way for five, not big gains, but critical 5-yard gains, and then more 5-yard gains that would get first downs. So he was making the gains that need to get, unlike Nick Chubb, who was getting very little yardage, or he was even getting knocked back. So, and then Baker Mayfield finally decided to show up, and he was finally connecting with Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Austin Hooper. So he was finally pushing the ball downfield. They're finally going up tempo, and I was pushing for them to go up tempo in the fourth quarter when they were trying to rally, because how are you gonna win it? How did the Browns win this game if they're not gonna push the ball downfield, and they're just sitting, moving the pace so slowly? So the Browns make it 22-17, with midway through the fourth quarter. And on the Browns' last possession, they do a bunch of checkdowns, and I don't know why. They, on third and forever, they check it down to Kareem Hunt, and after that, even if it was 4th and 9, they don't go for it. Kevin Stefanski calls for his punting group and hopes and prays that the Chiefs, that his defense has been performing so bad in this game, gets a stop against the Chiefs, who, keep in mind, is not the same Chiefs that has choked in the previous AFC wildcard games against the Titans a couple years ago, not the recent AFC Championship game. The ones against, if I can remember correctly, the Patriots, who managed to hold them off, but you get my point. These are not the Chiefs of the past. These are the much more aggressive Kansas City Chiefs. So why didn't Kansas, I know Kevin Stefanski is a new coach and all that, but why couldn't he get aggressive here? I know they're in field goal range if they turn it over on downs, but take a chance here. It's win or go home. It's take a chance. Just take a chance. So they punt, and they don't get the ball back ever for the rest of the game, because they try to call their timeouts, but the Chiefs offense continued to get the first downs, and after the 2-minute warning, it's third down and I forgot, 3rd down and 9 after Myles Garrett sacks Chad Henne. But on 3rd down and 9, they allowed Chad Henne to get about 8 yards of that sack back. So they're like a yard short, like inches short of the 1st down marker. So the Chiefs call a timeout to talk things over because, well, do they want to punt? Do you want to give the ball back to the Browns? Or should we actually try to go for it? Even if we don't go for it, you never know if the Browns will actually make it to the end zone. So I thought at this point the Browns, not the Browns, the Chiefs would punt it here. But no, again, these were not the Chiefs of the old. The Chiefs, with a backup quarterback, actually went for it. And I was like, what the fuck? What are they doing here? And lo and behold, they actually converted the 1st down. Chad Henne actually threw the football to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill caught it and slid down, so the time would continue to go down, and bam, Chiefs win it. So that was honestly like some crazy game, like a lot of crazy games, that featured a lot of drama, a near comeback by the Browns, but unfortunately the defense bit them in the ass. And I do want to say actually 2 things. One is about the commentary, especially at the end of the game. Like, if there wasn't one bit of obvious instance that Jim Nantz and Tony Romo were, if you don't know what I'm referring to on the audio version, stroking the thing, innuendo. They made it blatantly clear that they're biased towards the Chiefs because Tony Romo was getting all, oh yeah, the Chiefs made the 1st down, holy shit. He was getting so worked up when every time the Browns were getting 1st downs, even on the exciting stuff, he was just like, oh, okay, cool. But I know, I get it. It was a gutsy and cool play for the Chiefs to get that 1st down. And I was in disbelief that they actually made it. But why did Tony Romo have to jerk the curtain, as they like to call it? Why did they have to go like full blow all over that play? I mean, I like Tony Romo. I like Jim Nantz. But why did they have to make it so blatantly obvious that they're Chiefs fans? I just don't get it. I really don't. Like, please, don't let your bias show. Don't let your bias show, Jim and Tony. I like you guys. I really do. But, come on. Unbiased commentary, please. So, even though the Chiefs won, sorry, I had to get that out. I really had to get that out because that has just been, like, on my nerves, like, for, like, the past couple of days now. But, yeah, the Chiefs won, but now they have to keep their eyes on the health of Patrick Mahomes, who is still currently in concussion protocol. As of this recording, he had limited practice, but he's still in the concussion protocol. So it's going to be worth monitoring if he passes the protocol, but I don't know how long it takes for him to actually, like, pass it. Will it pass it by Friday? Will he pass it by Saturday? Will he pass it by game time? Game time is set for around 3:30 Pacific, 6:40 Eastern on Sunday. So I don't know, like, if he's gonna pass concussion protocol, but even then, this is something me and my dad were actually talking about earlier today. Even if Patrick Mahomes plays, and I get it's the AFC Championship game, Patrick Mahomes is still at a relatively young age. He has a concussion. I know he's the next great NFL quarterback, and I do believe he's gonna be one of those great quarterbacks of the future. But is he by playing this game? If the Chiefs allow him to play this game, if the NFL even if the NFL allows him to play this game when the concussion protocol tells him otherwise, how's it gonna, if he's not 100%, even if the concussion protocol says, oh yes, he passed, then how is it gonna affect him long term? Is this risk of playing the AFC Championship game when he's less than 100% from a concussion, which is a really bad a bad injury, in the long term. Short term, I'm not no medical expert, but it's a bad injury. But long term, it could be a very bad injury. Do the Chiefs want to take that chance of risking his health, playing the AFC Championship game, off of a concussion? So it's interesting to note. And I know the championship stake is there, but it's something to keep in mind. Patrick Mahomes still has years to get Super Bowl rings, and I get that the Chiefs want to win back-to-back, but they can't get greedy with Patrick Mahomes' health. This is your franchise quarterback that you're talking about here, and if you get greedy with Mahomes' health for over a Super Bowl ring, going back-to-back, potentially, then you're just gonna ruin his long-term health, his longevity as an NFL quarterback. So it's something to keep an eye on the next couple of days. So whether he plays on Sunday, it's gonna be something to keep an eye on. And then last but not least, to wrap up divisional weekend, we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the New Orleans Saints in the rematch of their rivalry from this season. And this was an interesting one. This was an interesting matchup going into it. There were a couple of storylines going into this game, like the Saints' ability to pull off the three-peat over the Bucs. Remember, going in, for all the casual viewers, the Saints defeated the Bucs by big margins, especially the second game where they blew them out 38-3. That was Brady's worst game ever as a starting quarterback. Even when back in 2003 he got shut out by the Bills, this was still his biggest loss ever in an NFL game, in my opinion. As for Brady, speaking of, was he going to be able to finally beat Drew Brees this year? Because he was just so embarrassed. The first two go-rounds, he was tired of getting smack talked by Saints players, not including Brees. But he was just he wanted to prove something, that he can beat the Saints when it mattered most. But also regarding Brees, because he was getting older, his arm strength was clearly not the same as it was before. It was actually significantly regressing. How concerned would fans be about him going in this game? Because again, it wasn't about just his throwing ability, but his health. Because he also missed a couple of games due to that rib injury he suffered back in Week 10 to the Niners, and that also affected him for a couple weeks, but that remained to be seen. And the defense for the Bucs, they clearly didn't play a good game in my eyes against the Washington football team. They thought they could just run around the Washington team, but they let them hang around against a relatively unknown quarterback in Taylor Heineke. So they clearly had to adjust their game plan. They clearly had to prepare better against a Saints team that still has Drew Brees, that still has Alvin Kamara, that still has Michael Thomas, and still has that another opposing defense led by Cam Jordan. And while I still thought the Saints had that offense, I still predicted the Bucs to win by a 7. I said that they had much better pieces around the offense, and the defense had a bad game, but they should be able to bounce back. And man, did they bounce back big. The defense bounced back big. So Tampa Bay finally got its revenge in a variety of ways, but most of it was on defense. Drew Brees got picked off 3 times. 3 times in this game, and all those interceptions led to touchdowns from the offense. And man, I'll actually talk about Drew Brees later, because those were very bad throws by Brees, and those were good interception returns by the defense, because it led to short yardage touchdown possessions by the Bucs. That was like a large chunk of their points scored. So that was a good possession there. Speaking of the offense, Brady controlled the tempo with a turnover-free performance, and even if the defense did a lot of the work, Leonard Floyd, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown continue to maintain their chemistry throughout the game. And the defense, they pressured Brees into making those 3 picks. And they forced a Jared Cook fumble, a very critical one, in the game as well. So a much better performance from the defense, in contrast to last week against Washington. So as for Drew Brees, I know there were reports from Jay Glazer, Fox Sports' Jay Glazer, about how Drew Brees plans to retire, but it's not confirmed yet. But if this was indeed Drew Brees' last game ever in the NFL, this is a really sad way to go out, man. It's 3 picks, and you're dinking and dunking your passes. It's man, I know. It's I know I like talking about how bad his performance, and I'm just sitting here as an armchair QB, but I don't know. It was just not a good game to go out if that was your last game as a veteran quarterback, with being in the top 2 for touchdowns, for passing yards, and having a Super Bowl ring. I don't know. For Brees, it was just a crappy way to go out. Not just for Brees, but also for the Saints. This is just another disappointing way for them to exit the playoffs, and wasting yet another chance for Brees to get a Super Bowl ring. You just got to look at the last couple of years for the Saints and how they exited the playoffs. 2017, the Minneapolis Miracle against the Vikings. 2018, for some of you that remember, the controversial, I don't know if you call it controversial, justified, validated, the no call, the lack of a pass interference on the Rams defense at the end of the game, near the end of the game, and in the critical moment of the fourth quarter, and the interception by Drew Brees in overtime that led to the Rams going to the Super Bowl. That cost them their chance to face Tom Brady when he was on the Patriots. And then in 2019, in the wild card game against the Vikings, they had a chance to move on to the divisional, but they let the Vikings hang around for too long, and they went to overtime. Drew Brees never got the ball. The Vikings and Kirk Cousins marched down the field. Kyle Rudolph scores the game-winning touchdown, the tight end. And I don't know why this became a controversial thing. the Kyle Rudolph kind of pushed off, but in my eyes, it wasn't enough to warrant offensive pass interference. So they're literally Saints fans were trying to really rile up for even more controversy, for even more like petitions that, this was more controversy on pass interference. Like, we were robbed again. So Saints fans felt robbed for 2 straight years in 2018, 2019. And then 2020, we got Drew Brees throws 3 picks, and the Saints offense just didn't have didn't have the light and the fire enough in them to beat the Bucs for the 3rd straight time to get Brees that ring. So again, if Brees does retire, and I know he doesn't want to retire this way, but it's going to be a tough decision for him. So speaking of tough decisions, oh man, if you thought the Eagles salary cap situation was bad, oh man, the Saints, the Saints are marching down salary cap hell. In other words, they don't have money to spend on signing their own free agents, other players around the league, even offer contract extensions for eligible players on their roster. Yikes all around, man. I believe when I last checked, they are 99.8 million over the salary cap limit. So they are in the deep red zone, and that is bad. So, I don't know what they're gonna do. They obviously can't keep most of the players that are free agents. They're gonna have to ask a lot of their players that are signed for a few more years to take probably pay cuts or restructure their contracts. I don't know what they're gonna do. The Saints are in a precarious situation, and it gets even more precarious if Drew Brees retires. But regardless, if Drew Brees retires, they need to address their quarterback situation, because Taysom Hill, like that sample size we got in, I forgot how many games he started, when I think it was like 5 games that Drew Brees was out this past season, but it was becoming real apparent that Taysom Hill is not going to be not even the short-term answer to starter, because one of the reasons why they like Taysom Hill is that you can use him in just about any situation. I don't know if you can really use him as a long-term starting quarterback, and those games that Taysom Hill started, like, eventually the later games kind of proved why that it shouldn't be a long-term solution. So they should do whatever it takes, like, to re-sign Jameis Winston. And I do believe it's in Jameis Winston's interest to re-sign with the Saints on a team-friendly deal, because just Jameis Winston really expect himself to get a super mega contract, a super mega, ultra mega, look at this fucking mega contract in the offseason from another team, unless if he's really desperate, unless if some team's really desperate to offer him a really big contract. I don't know. I just think you should use this opportunity, especially if Brees retires, to re-sign with the Saints, get an opportunity to become the short-term and maybe even the long-term starter. And who knows? So that's my thoughts on the Saints offseason needs, and that's my thoughts on the divisional round. A lot of stuff happened in that divisional round, but my biggest takeaway from this divisional round is the health of Patrick Mahomes, because that's going to be a big factor going into the AFC title game, which we're going to cover now. We are going to cover Conference Championship Sunday. We have made it. We have made it to the Final Four of the NFL playoffs. We're just one more stop away from the Super Bowl. I don't count the Pro Bowl. Sorry. I don't count the Pro Bowl for those people that like the Pro Bowl. But here on the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, I don't care about the Pro Bowl. So it's the last stop before the Super Bowl. Championship Sunday. We got four teams, the final four: the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Green Bay Packers, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs. Which team from the NFC, which team from the AFC are going to be facing off each other in the Super Bowl? We're going to find out this Sunday. So, starting things off is in the NFC at 12 o'clock Pacific on Fox is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up to very cold Lambeau Field to take on Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. My big storylines here are whether or not Tom Brady and the Bucs are going to be able to defeat Aaron Rodgers. Again, I'll get to again in a second. So they could become the first team in NFL history to play the Super Bowl in their home stadium. Now, here's a couple of factoids here. The closest team to having the opportunity to play a Super Bowl on their home stadium was the 2017 Minnesota Vikings. The Super Bowl that year, Super Bowl 52, was in US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. But they made the Vikings, as I mentioned about the Minneapolis Miracle earlier, the following week, they got their ass beat by the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So, in essence, the Eagles literally became the team that played in the Vikings stadium like 2 weeks after the Eagles pounded on the Vikings. So, nonetheless, the Vikings were the closest team to becoming the first team to technically host a Super Bowl and play the Super Bowl in their home stadium. So the Tampa Bay Bucks are going to be the second team with that opportunity, and who knows, anything can happen here. They might just be able to, but they're going to have a challenge on their hands because they're facing Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. That not just Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams, that three-headed running back dragon, and in that running game, of course, Devontae Adams and that Packer defense. So, speaking of the Packer defense, can that defense shut down the Bucs' variety of receivers? They got Antonio Brown, they got Chris Godwin, they got Rob Gronkowski, they got Leonard Fournette, they got Ronald Jones. Now they got a suddenly resurging Cameron Brate, all on the offense. So this is not the Rams that the Packers are dealing with, because the Rams are not dealing with Jared Goff and their lack of receivers. They're dealing with a whole army, as I like to put it. They're dealing with an army of weapons in Tampa Bay, and they're dealing with a 6-time Super Bowl champion in Tom Brady and a whole skill set of receivers. So I would also say the same thing at the same time for the Bucs defense, who did play a bad game against Washington, but also played a good game, albeit against an aging quarterback in Drew Brees. So it's going to be a wild one. It's going to be a wild game between the Bucs and the Packers. Now, keep in mind, they faced each other in Week 5, where the Packers got blown out 38-10. They allowed the Bucs to score 38 unanswered points after the Packers scored 10 straight. So it was a rout. It was a rout in Week 5 when they faced off. But since then, they've been two different teams. Rodgers in that offense have been playing at an MVP level, especially Rodgers, and they tightened up on defense. So they've just been a much different team, and they've been able to scrap out a lot of wins. And especially like a lot of big ones. As for the Bucks, they, aside from getting pounded by the Saints, they found their footing on defense while hitting their stride and finally maintaining that chemistry on offense. But keep in mind, these were against like teams, the likes of the Saints, the Washington football team, the Falcons twice, the Detroit Lions, and the Carolina Panthers. Since their last loss to the New Orleans Saints in the regular season, at home, that big blowout loss. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be cold for the Tampa Bay Bucks too. So that's probably gonna be a big factor for most of the team. Not for Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, because again, they played in New England, so they already know what it feels like to play in cold weather, to play in that very cold environment in Lambeau, like similar to Foxborough. So it's gonna be a shootout, but I predict the Packers are gonna win by 6. Packers are gonna hang on to keep Brady and the Bucks from playing the Super Bowl on their turf. So they're just a more balanced team in my eyes, and Rodgers is playing at an MVP level, and he's just gonna do like what he does to lead his team to victory on Sunday on the NFC side. On the AFC side, we have the Buffalo Bills traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs in the AFC title game on CBS in the final game of Championship Sunday. Now, as I've mentioned frequently throughout this episode, that is the health of Patrick Mahomes. Again, as of this recording, Mahomes is still in the protocol of the concussion protocol. He did have a limited practice as of this recording, but it remains to be seen if he's actually cleared to play. So he still got past the protocol. So the Chiefs can clear him to play. So if Mahomes doesn't play, how aggressive is Andy Reid's play calling going to get with Chad Henne under center? So I imagine they still will, but I don't know if it's going to be the same as it was last the last game against the Browns, because they were getting like very aggressive. Chad Henne like threw a deep ball to Tyreek Hill, but even though it got intercepted, but that just shows how aggressive he can, like, that play calling can get. And then of course you got the 4th down play at the end of the game where they threw it to Tyreek to seal the game. So it's going to be interesting to how they approach this game if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play. As for the Bills, it's all about if they can continue to build on their momentum from the Colts and the Ravens game on both sides of the ball. The Colts game, the offense did what it needed to do. It's like it built on the momentum. It built on the chemistry of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and then in the Ravens game they got John Brown. So they got their linear weapons on offense for this game, and now it's on Josh Allen to take that next step and outduel the Chiefs. As for the Bills defense, they had a bad game, failing to pressure Phillip Rivers and shut down their running game. But in the Ravens game, they pressured and contained Lamar Jackson all game, and again got that pick 6 in the 3rd quarter. So they're hoping to have able to at least try to keep up, try to limit as much as possible Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. I don't know if Sammy Watkins is still there, but regardless, the litany of receivers and weapons that are on that Chiefs offense, and especially if Mahomes plays, his running ability. So it's going to be on the Bill again. It's going to be on the Bills offense to play the best football that they can actually play. They have to go all out on all sides of the ball to win this game. So my prediction, it gets a little dicey here, actually. If Mahomes does play, I think the Chiefs win it by 3, and that's all I can put it at there. But then I also put here, it's a toss-up for the Bills also at 3. But if Mahomes doesn't play, it's Bills by 7. Both of these teams' quarterbacks are playing great football right now. But if Mahomes plays, it's like he's unstoppable, man. Even at less than 100%. So, and even with him out, you still got to consider Hill, Kelsey, even though he didn't play, but he has a chance of playing if he's cleared. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back from, I think it was the last draft from 2020. He's going to be a challenge they're all going to be a challenge for the Bills to defend. So, and that was especially a challenge when the Bills and Chiefs met in week 6. So, there's still going to be a challenge here. So, if Mahomes doesn't play, the result swings a bit. And again, I say a bit in favor of the Bills because, again, you still got to deal with the Chiefs' offensive weapons. But, again, it's all dependent on how Josh Allen performs. And the biggest spotlights he's had, like, in his career, the AFC Championship game. It's like, it's your one-way ticket to the Super Bowl, man. It's like, you got to perform on the biggest bright lights. Don't shrink. Don't go check down Charlie, like, all game. You got to get aggressive. You got to push for plays even if they don't seem worth the risk. You got John Brown back last week, which was a welcome addition to your receiving core. Now you got to connect with every receiver you got. John Brown, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Deshaun Knox, and now the suddenly emerging Gabriel Davis. They're like your counterpunch to the Chiefs against the Chiefs defense that's led by Tyrann Mathieu. So, speaking of the Chiefs defense, don't count them out because they did a pretty good job going up against the Browns defense and, of course, against the Bills in week 6 of the regular season. So, either team can win it, but the result's going to depend on whether Mahomes plays or not. So, again, if Mahomes plays, it's a toss-up. Either the Bills or Chiefs win by 3. But if Chad Henne plays because Mahomes is out, then the Bills will win by 7. I don't know. It's just a really hard prediction to make because these teams are just so good now, especially the Bills. Like ever since they lost to the Chiefs in week 6, they just became a much better team. Following that, and that's not a knock on the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes is like becoming a great future quarterback, but you got to take into consideration what the Chiefs have on offense, on defense. So they're gonna be in a all-out fight on Sunday. So all I can say at this point for the AFC side, and I guess I could say this for the NFC side, one of these teams is gonna make the Super Bowl. One NFC team is gonna represent the Super Bowl. One AFC team is gonna represent the Super Bowl. Which one is it gonna be? Well, we're about to find out on Sunday. And I can't really give you a definitive Super Bowl prediction because, well, it's kind of hard to pick, especially on the AFC side. So it's gonna be a fun one to watch on Sunday. The slate of championship games. It's gonna be one hell of a ride, man. It's gonna be one hell of a ride. That's gonna take our heads off off the seat, man. But anyway, that's all I got for you on this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I'll be back for you all, for all you listeners, for all you viewers of the podcast next week when we recap the NFC and AFC Championship games and give you my early preview of the Super Bowl matchup between either one of these winners of the championship games. It should be interesting. Plus, another episode that same week for my wrestling fans out there for the Royal Rumble. It's it's very blind. It's a very like blind predictions episode. So don't expect me to give you like, I picked this person because again, I haven't watched WWE and even AEW in the last several months, so forgive me if my reasoning for picking X wrestler to win the Royal Rumble is nonchalant. But anyway, everyone, that's it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. Keep that Very Cold Lasagna very cold in the fridge with your freezing cold takes on the world of professional wrestling and sports. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Make sure to subscribe to the channel of this Very Cold Lasagna, and make sure to listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. Tap the bell on YouTube so you can be notified of every single episode that comes out, and even the extras. And follow me on Twitter at Very Cold Lasagna, and I will see you all next time. Take care, everyone, and have a good day.